Good morning, students. Today we will discuss shortest job first scheduling algorithm. Now, this algorithm associates each process the length of process's next CPU burst. When the CPU is available and it is assigned to the process that has the smallest next CPU burst, means the burst time of each process is associated with each process, and CPU find out that which process contains the smallest burst time and the CPU is allotted to that particular process. So this is the concept of shortest job. Well, obviously, if a process is having lesser burst time as compared to the other process, then which one will be the shortest? The process which is having lesser burst time will be the shortest job as compared to the other one, right? So the shortest job first algorithm can be the primitive or non-primitive. In this lecture we will discuss primitive algorithm, and in the next lecture we will see the non-preemptive approach. The shortest job first algorithm, the more appropriate term for this scheduling algorithm is shortest next CPU burst algorithm. Why? Because the scheduling depends on the length of the next CPU burst time of a process rather than its total length, right? Let's take an example of non-preemptive. In the next lecture we will discuss preemptive example. Now here we have 4 processes and the burst time is given of each process. Here we consider that all the processes arrive at the same time. Now, according to the shortest job first algorithm, when we create the Gantt chart, then one thing is clear, that first of all, the CPU is allotted to that process which has the lowest burst time. So as you can see here in this given table, the burst time of P4 is the lowest burst time. So the CPU is allotted to P4, right? So at 0th unit time, CPU is allotted to P4 and the burst time of P4 is 3. So process P4 executes for 3 units of time, and other processes have greater burst time as compared to this P4. Now after the completion of this process P4, again we find out the lowest burst time. So the lowest burst time among 6, 8 and 7, we have 6. So the CPU is allotted to P1. So at third unit of time, the CPU is allotted to process P1. As you can see here that the burst time of process P1 is 6 units of time. So the CPU is allotted to P1 for further 6 units of time. So P1 executes from third unit of time to 9th unit of time. After completion of P1, further we find the lowest burst time. Now among P2 and P3, 7 is lesser. So, 'CPU' is allotted to the P3. And as we can see here that the burst time of P3 is 7. So P3 executes for unit 9th unit of time to 16th unit of time. And finally we have P2 which executes for 8 units of time, and all the processes completes after 24 units of time. Okay. Now if we compare this shortest job first algorithm and if we take the same data, if we use the same tuple and we apply the first come first serve algorithm, then we notice that the average waiting time is 10.25 millisecond. Okay. Now look at the what is the average waiting time using shortest job first. As you can see from the Gantt chart, the waiting time for P1, look at this Gantt chart. The waiting time for P1 is 3 units of time. So here waiting time for P1 is 3 milliseconds. The waiting time for P2 is, look at this, P2 starts execution after 6 milliseconds. Means P2 waits for 16 milliseconds. So the waiting time for P2 will be 16 milliseconds. Similarly, the waiting time for P3 is 9 milliseconds. See, P3 starts execution after 9 milliseconds. And finally, the waiting time for P4 is 0 millisecond. Means as soon as the P4 comes, the CPU is allotted to the P4. So the waiting time for P4 is 0 milliseconds. Now if we take the average waiting time, then the calculated value is 7 milliseconds. Now if we compare this value with the first come first serve algorithm, so first come first serve is not efficient algorithm as compared to the shortest job first scheduling algorithm. So among FCFS and SJF scheduling algorithm, which one is efficient? Shortest job first scheduling algorithm is much more efficient as compared to the first come first serve algorithm. Now in the next lecture we will discuss the preemptive method of shortest job first algorithm. So thanks for today. Take care.